One of the things that has allowed me to build massive momentum is I gamify a lot of things. I look at how can I win? How can I build momentum and make certain changes that allow me to win that next listing? That's like winning a game. Problems and failures are inevitable in business and life. We are all going to face them, but ultimately those who fail let those problems and failures depict their business, and it makes them ultimately get into a rut and start to go into this plateau or downward spiral that really doesn't have to be the case. No, there's 6 questions that you need to start asking yourself every single time that you run into a problem or a failure in your business and life. And what I'm going to do in this video is break down using a business example in real estate so that you can properly understand how to apply these questions. Because if you start to apply an audit every single time you run into an issue or have a certain failure or setback in your business, this will start to allow you to get outside of that and build massive momentum from that certain situation. So without further ado, let's dive in to how you can leverage failures and problems in order to skyrocket your business and not let it get to you and start to weigh down your progress and momentum. Okay, so because my channel is primarily tailored toward business, I'm going to use a business example in real estate where somebody maybe lost a client. So maybe you lost a client and that's a problem, that's a failure, that's a setback. And oftentimes people will let that affect them for days, weeks, sometimes even months. It starts to weigh heavy on you. It starts to make you feel like you're not able to do it, like it's not possible for you, like you're not cut out for it, and it really takes a toll mentally on the progress that you should be making on your business. So let me explain how to approach a scenario like that. But these 6 questions apply to anything in your business and life. So the first question you want to ask yourself, and this is a little bit cliche, but the ones from 2 to 6 are going to make a little bit more sense. But question number 1 is, what can I learn from this? So what can you take from this situation to learn so that it either doesn't happen again or that you can avoid it happening in the future? So let's say you lost that client, you lost that listing presentation. There's a couple things that you could learn from that experience. You could learn that maybe you need to have a better understanding of your client's needs before going into some pitch. Maybe you need to dial in your listing presentation, or maybe you even need to get a better value proposition or learn a new skill set so that you can differentiate yourself from the agent that you maybe lost the listing to, so that you can start to stand out above and beyond the rest. But each and every failure and setback should be a learning experience. Instead of saying, woe is me, and that, I'm not cut out for it, start to look at what you can take from that, because every single failure is not a fail, it's a first attempt in learning. Typical acronym that people like to refer to, but it's very much the truth. So the next time something happens, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what can you actually learn from this experience so that you can improve going forward? Now, the second question is, what is great about this? What kind of great aspect can come from this failure or setback? So using this example, it could be the fact that now you've been able to identify the weaknesses that you have in your business so that those don't compound and you don't continue to lose business. You've now identified the holes in your bucket so that you can plug them, so that you could start to improve as an entrepreneur, as a realtor, so that you could start to win more listing presentations. But there's always beauty in every sort of setback and failure or problem that you face. It's just, what can you find in that is a positive aspect that you can now apply to your business? The third question you want to ask yourself is, what is not perfect yet? The keyword being yet. Using this current example, it could be that you've identified that you don't stand out enough amongst the other agents in your market center to make it a clear, obvious, undisputed choice that you are the go-to person to work with. Now, ultimately, the keyword being yet means that as we start to go through the remainder of these questions, what are we going to do to make it perfect? And what are we willing and not willing to do to make it perfect? Because once we've identified the solution, we've identified what we can learn from it, we've been able to figure out what's great about this opportunity that we now have to learn. Well, now what are we going to do to make it perfect? So that goes into question number 4, which is, what are you willing to do to make it the way that you want it? Now, that might not be perfect, because the next question is going to be something that is in contrast to that. But let's talk about this, for example, so that you better understand how to apply this to a certain situation. What you need to do here is identify the certain changes that you're willing to do and the effort that you're willing to put into new things or into different things in order to make the changes, to make it perfect based on what you're willing to do. And this again is a key word because I'll talk about it after this. So maybe what you're willing to do to make it perfect or make it the way that you want it, being you want to win more or every listing presentation, you want to get to the point where it's very obvious that you're the person for the job, you're willing to revise your marketing material. You're willing to study the market data every single day for 1 hour so that you can have better knowledge that you can apply to the questions that your clients have. You're willing to get outside of your comfort zone to put yourself on video so that you can have a differentiating factor that separate you from other agents. Maybe you're even willing to overhaul your branding so that you look more professional. You stand out amongst the others so that when clients are looking at what you do, what you present, that it really does look a cut above so that you're showing, not just telling, because a lot of agents talk about what they do, but very few can actually show what they do. So maybe you're willing to build a portfolio of a new case study showing new overhauled branding, better quality listing photos, property tours so that your videos stand out and you can show your clients what their property would look like when working with you and how you can get more exposure and being more in tune with the market so that you can better study the data. Maybe you're also willing to partner with a more experienced agent so that you can avoid the risk of people saying you don't have experience, you haven't done a deal in this market or at this price point or like our property or worked with people like us, and you're willing to remove the ego and emotion from the conversation and partner with somebody that has more experience, co-list it with them so that way you're able to win the listing. Question number 5 is going to be in contrast to that, which is what are you not willing to do to make it the way that you want it? So this is a very interesting one, and the reason being is that going back to one of the other videos on my channel, if you want it, drop a comment below. It's life-changing, talking about the 5 Ds that keep you from fulfilling promises to yourself. The reason why we want to ask the question of what are we not willing to do is that now if you start to go through the motions of making these changes, you're not breaking any promises. You've already identified what you're not willing to do. And by setting the context and creating that container of what you're willing to do and not willing to do, you can now create a path forward that allows you to fulfill your promises, fulfill the commitments, make those constructive changes, but not disappoint yourself because from day one, you've identified the things you're not willing to do. So for example, maybe you lost a luxury listing or a listing at a higher price point, and maybe you dressed a little bit too casually, but that's very genuine and authentic to you. Maybe they were looking for somebody that looked more the part, that is very buttoned up, clean pressed, suit, tie, the whole 9 yards, a very traditional luxury agent. And maybe something that you're not willing to do because you want to, and rightfully so, you want to be authentic to yourself and you want to have a brand that relates to you in your true form. You're not willing to change how you dress or your appearance in order to adhere to what the average person at that price point is looking for. So you're not going to change how you dress. That's fine. Maybe you're not willing to spend a certain amount of money in order to have a larger presence in that market. You're not willing to, or maybe you're not able to spend a certain amount of money on paid advertising so that you can become top of mind in that area. Maybe you're not willing to spend a certain amount of money on flyers or brochures or mailers or bus benches, billboards, or sponsoring events and things like that because maybe you just can't, or maybe you don't want to. But by creating that confined understanding of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do allows you to go to the final aspect and the last question, which is how can you enjoy this process? Now, there's a couple ways that you could do this in terms of my own experience at least, and of course you can apply this to your own business, but the first is being gamifying it. One of the things that has allowed me to build massive momentum is I gamify a lot of things. I look at how can I win? How can I build momentum and make certain changes that allow me to win that next listing? That's like winning a game. how can I win just one more, winning a game? How can I get to the championship of doing the 24 deals and what to do to win that game? And when you can start to gamify it, of feeling a sense of pride when you win that next listing presentation because of the fact that you're making these constructive changes, that starts to make it an enjoyable process because you're working towards something. Now, simultaneously, what I bought into a lot of times when things didn't go right is I bought into the journey of growth, and I loved seeing the transformation as I started making some of these changes of overhauling my marketing so I look different, I show up different, my brand presence is stronger. That was exciting and I really enjoyed that. One of the other things that I started doing is getting really excited about the listing videos and the video content that I was doing for myself and clients and my local market, and being prideful about the outcome of a really well done video and getting excited about that and enjoying the process, seeing my videos perform better, seeing my following going up, seeing more reach outs and leads coming from the content that I'm putting out that's a next level above because of this whole situation. So the moral of the story is we're all going to deal with failures, setbacks, disappointments, things that don't go well. The question is, or these 6 questions are, what we went through today that you need to start asking yourself so that those setbacks and failures don't become detrimental to your business, but rather become a catalyst for massive growth so that you can take your business to the next level.